This is round one from the Rahway State Prison. And on the right of your screen is James Scott of the black trunks, Richie Cates in the white trunks from Vineland, New Jersey. Scoring here in New Jersey by a referee and 2 judges. They use a round scoring system supplemented by the 5-point must system. Fighters wearing 8-ounce gloves, and this is an 18-foot ring. And Scott comes out on the attack pretty much as we expected, Gil.
Well, I tell you, this is a classic matchup of the boxer against the slugger. Scott is a slugger. He bombs away at all times. But Richie Cates knows his way around that ring. He'll try to move Scott around, keep him off balance.
The referee, Paul Venti. The judges are Harold Letterman and Charles Spina. Scott weighed in at 176 and a half. Cates at 176. Scott's victory over Eddie Gregory here. He fought a forcing kind of a fight. He fought very well inside. He kept the pressure on Gregory and ultimately wound up with the 10-round decision, 12-round decision. That fight going 12 rounds. Today it's scheduled for 10.
Tim, at the instructions in the center of the ring, Scott tried to intimidate Cates. He said, "You're scared, you're scared." And the referee just told him, "Cut that stuff out." Looks like Paul Venti's going to handle this fight pretty well.
Scott coming off his victory over Gregory. And Richie Cates over a decision against Carlos Marx back in November. In fact, that was on a card we showed you here, a Howard Davis fight on the CBS Sports Spectacular, November 4th from Atlantic City. A bit of a layoff for Cates. He had a fight in February canceled by a blizzard. 34 wins, 4 losses with 19 knockouts for Richie Cates, according to Ring Magazine. James Scott 13-0 with 1 draw, 7 knockouts to his credit. Less than a minute remaining, round 1. Scott 21 years of age, Cates 25. WBA ranks James Scott number 5. Boxing Illustrated magazine ranks him number 6 in their February rankings. Cates is ranked number 18 by the WBC. But he's been in 2 championship fights against Victor Galindez. He won 15 rounds in each. Stopped 1 time, lost a decision in another. Just a slip there. Less than 30 seconds remaining, round 1. Any surprises, Gil?
No, I like the way Cates is concentrating. Good powers of concentration.
Final seconds of the first round.
Let's go real hard.
This is round 2. James Scott of the black trunks now on the right of your screen. Richie Cates in white. Pretty even first round attack, Gil.
I thought so.
Scoring from James Scott. Best punch so far.
That punch was partially blocked by Cates' guard. Beg to differ with you, Timmy.
To the body, he did that very effectively against Gregory.
Scott's a very good body puncher. Gets plenty of leverage in his punches. Cates has to stay out of those corners. He should be using the center of the ring.
Cates working right in his own corner. Now the referee Venti gets them separated. By the way, a couple of weeks ago, I'm covering the Greg Page professional debut against Don Martin. I mentioned that Page was unbeaten in 6 fights in international competition. Some alert boxing fan called who follows the amateur ranks and said, no, that wasn't true. He had lost a fight in international competition to a Cuban boxer. And he was 6-0 for the U.S. against Soviet fighters only. So we thank our avid viewers for calling in and setting the record straight for Greg Page's amateur career record.
Move.
Little blood on the scalp of James Scott. We're trying to see where it's
He's
coming from.
complaining that Richie Gates butted him.
We're under a minute remaining in the second round here at Rahway.
Scott does have a slight cut on his scalp.
Scott's terrific physical condition. Reportedly does 1,000 push-ups a day. Very, very serious about his physical condition at all times. Scott on the attack. Final seconds of the second round. Round number 7. Round number 7. From the auditorium of the Rahway State Prison, the inmate James Scott. On the right of your screen in the black trunks, Richie Cates in white.
Let's see if Scott goes back to his crowding tactics, his Henry Armstrong style. That's when he's most effective. If he stays outside and boxes with Cates, he may be in trouble.
Cates came back well in round 6 as Scott kind of backed off, started to box. Cates scored with jabs and counterpunches. Cates has got some partisan fans here that came up from the Leesburg prison where he teaches boxing, physical education. There's the prison population here watching upstairs. There's for James Scott, most of them I'm sure.
Scott is back on top of his head case.
Scott's scoring with a combination over there on the ropes. He's bleeding again somewhat from that laceration on the scalp. Corner's done a fine job, though, and preventing it from being worse. Cates just pulled away from that second punch of the combination thrown by Scott.
I tell you, when Scott's on top of you like that, he's hitting you with his head, he's hitting you with his shoulders, elbows, and hands.
Reminds you a little bit of John Conte style when he gets going like that. Good exchange by both fighters. Trying to get 2 or 3 together. Cates moving well, has managed to elude most of that punishment.
Well, Cates is a good professional. He's a smart fighter.
Voice of 15 rounds with Victor Galindez in championship matches. Stopped in the 15th round of the first one.
Scott is swarming all over him now, Timmy. He's actually running after him.
Scott scored to the left. Didn't have a whole lot of sting on it. Coming to their feet as Scott on the attack here now pressuring, and he landed that time to the face of Richie Cates. Cates still blocking most of the tougher punches effectively with his glove.
He's expending a lot of energy, Scott. See if he can do it 2 rounds in a row.
Got himself a little stretching and rest there against the ropes after that flurry. Final second, round 7. Round number 8. James Scott in black, Richie Cates in white. From the auditorium of the Rahway State Prison, Tim Ryan and Gil Clancy at ringside. And Gil,
I tell you, Tim, what I'd like to point out is this. If a fighter can put 2 rounds together, back to back, if Scott applies just as much pressure this round as he did last, he might get Cates out of there. But if he goes back to that boxing style again, who knows what could happen. He expended a lot of energy last round. Does he have it to do again this round? That's what I'd like to see.
Scott has 7 knockouts in his 13 victories, but the question would remain, at least so far into this fight, and after 12 rounds against Gregory, does he have knockout power? What's your feeling? Is he a good, strong puncher, or more of the kind of guy that'll wear you down, Gil?
What happens with James, he's a strong guy and he's a good puncher, but his punches are a little wide, and Cates is able to move a little bit with each punch, which takes the shock effect out of it. But he could get you out of there with one punch at any time, in the 10th round or in the first round.
That blood again coming from the laceration on the scalp of James Scott. It has not been a factor in the fight. Done a good job in the corner with it. It occurred early in the fight, and evidently from a headbutt. Both fighters were warned. Not sure what Richie had in mind with that move.
Looked like he went down on an elevator.
Scott has been relentless, a little bit like Joe Frazier in that regard. He just comes out, keeps coming forward every round, and he'll throw his punches to the bodies. He's not just trying to land that big one to the head.
What about Gene Fullmer? It used to be left, right, and head.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't on purpose. It was his style. He used to throw that left hand and right hand, and naturally the head would come right in behind it. And that's what Scott's been doing. Cates must be getting discouraged because he's hit Scott with some pretty good punches, and nothing seems to slow Scott down. Here he comes running again.
Scott, I think, trying to produce a knockout victory here if he can. Maybe getting a little bit frustrated. That's the first kind of amateurish move he's made so far in the fight.
A lot of times when he throws a jab, he leaves himself way off balance, Tim. That's also amateur.
Peppering a couple of short rights to the chin and cheekbone of Richie Cates. 8th round.
See that little skip? He actually ran after Cates.
Let's go.
Final seconds of the 8th round. Round number 9, scheduled for 10. Richie Cates in white. James Scott in the black trunks.
In my opinion, Tim, the next to the last round in the fight is always the most important one, especially if you're trying to get a guy out of there. You've got to get him in the round before the last one, because once he gets into that last 3 minutes and you haven't knocked him out, he's going to survive. He'll do everything he can to stay in there in the 10th round. The moral of that story is that the 9th round right now is the big round.
Scott has winged a couple of hard lefts, but unable to make good contact with him. We have Scott ahead on our cards. They don't count for much, except in the opinions of Clancy and Ryan. But
well, the Clancy opinion is that if I was in Cates' corner, I'd say the only way you can win now, Richie, is by a knockout. You better go out and just throw caution to the wind and try and get this tough guy out of there. And that is some task.
19 knockouts and 34 wins for Richie Cates. He's not known as a terrific puncher.
That was a great exchange. Both fighters with good combinations.
That's what you want, man. That's what you want. Body, Jeff, body.
Stalking Cates, had him in the corner momentarily, and ring-wise, Cates spins out of there.
That's the word for Cates, ring-wise. He knows what he's doing at all times.
Next week on the Sports Spectacular, the WBC Bantamweight Championship, Carlos Zarate, the champion, against Mensan Tupalago, #1 ranked contender from Africa. Zarate, one of the great knockout fighters in boxing today. Should be another exciting match.
Scott is feigning being hurt. He wants Cates to come at him so he can nail him with a counterpunch. He's an actor besides being a fighter.
A most articulate young man, an engaging fellow.
Not only is he articulate, Tim, he can talk well.
Yeah, that too. Under a minute to go in the 9th round. He's the president of the boxing program here at Rahway, and has had a lot to do with the enthusiastic membership. Now, numbers around 40. They're all here in the hall watching him.
Timmy, if I was here, I'd vote for him too. Must have been unanimous.
Scott trying to talk Cates over there, and Richie says, I'm not coming in there. I'm staying out here. This is my territory. Final seconds of round 9. This is round 10, and Scott just jumped off his stool. He wanted to get out there even before the bell sounded for the 10th round.
Let's go.
Did you hear what he was shouting? He said, all right, Richie, let's do it. Let's do it. Shouting at Cates across the ring.
Well, you know he's going to be going a hard 3 minutes. I would think Cates will be too. We got him slightly behind in a close fight. Our cards don't count for anything, of course, but Cates must feel that he may be behind in this. Scott would love to have that knockout. He wants to impress everybody he can, including all of our television viewers, hoping for that championship fight on the outside, in the streets, as he calls it.
Richie Cates is a tough man to knock out. You just don't hit him with a good, solid punch. He knows how to move. He knows how to bob and weave. He knows how to maneuver you. You watch him take a walk over to the right now, probably. See, there he comes over. That's just to take the power away from Scott.
Scott keeping the pressure on him, however. Cates has got to be a little more offensive here.
He has Richie hurt.
He's got him hurt now.
Has him hurt.
He's definitely hurt. We had a good look at his eyes there, and now Cates staggering around a little bit, rubber-legged. And the rope's right above us, and they stop it. It's a 10th round TKO. Referee Paul Venti jumping in. He had a good look at Cates' eyes, and we could see them too. And a knockout victory for James Scott in the 10th and final round here at Rahway. And his fans here on their feet applauding the effort of inmate James Scott. Let's see if we can pick out the one punch that did it. It looked to me like a short right. Let's see, Gil. That punch, I think, might have been the one just after he hurt him. A little bit hard to tell, but at this point, he was definitely staggered. James Scott, what do you think this knockout victory means for you?
Well, Mike Rossman was looking. Matthew Franklin was looking. Johnson was looking. I wanted the title. I'm the uncrowned champ. I got butted and still won.
Was there any doubt about stopping him?
As there's officers around here, we've been predicting the KO all week. Anybody that know me, we've been predicting the KO. The brothers in prison, they know I've been talking about the KO.
Okay.
I want Mike Rossman.
Thank you, James Scott. Congratulations. He has a greater knockout percentage.